Welcome into the MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe. So many things to get into around the world of baseball. A lot of great baseball games today. The AL wildcard race is certainly heating up as the teams are certainly making their moves in the AL wildcard race. On the NL side of things are kind of crystallizing themselves as teams that are likely to make the postseason and teams that are, well, just coming up a little bit short here. Less competition anyway for the wild card on the NL side, but no shortage of drama. The Los Angeles Dodgers, seen as the favorites going into the season, have certainly stumbled upon some roadblocks throughout the year, injuries being the biggest of them. But they could use some certain additions here at the deadline. Welcome in, everybody. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe. Michael, hola, Michael. The Dodgers need everything. The Dodgers do need health primarily. I think once they're back and healthy, they should be fine. But I don't think they should be, resting on their laurels at this point. Dodgers on paper should be the team on paper that beats literally everybody in the world. But they're not going to be that team, at least not for a while. And they still need a back-end reliever. I think that's their biggest thing that they're looking to acquire right now. Health, of course, still being the biggest thing that would help this team overall. But I wouldn't rule out them trying to add a big piece wherever they can add it. Say if it's an outfielder like Duran or a starter like Joe Ryan, somebody big to kind of help out this team that's was seen as the favorite to get to the World Series and win it this year. Certainly has had their stumbling blocks along the year. We'll see if they can course correct along the year. But again, it's not about the 162 for the Dodgers. I think they could care less how they finish, where they finish, wild card, division winner, last place in the wild card. As long as they get to October baseball, I think they could care less where they ultimately finish. Dodgers stumbled. The Dodgers have jumped a cliff. I wouldn't say they've gone quite that far. I'd say they've certainly had their issues, but health being their biggest one. But they're still second best record in the NL, third best record somewhere in there. They're doing just fine, even with their injuries and poor performance as of late. I have no doubt that team will be able to pull out of that nosedive. But let's get into some of the other headlines around Major League Baseball, and we're going to start with where the standings are at through this very second, anyway. We'll start on the AL in the American League anyway. Tigers lose again. They're 2-8 in their last 10. Offense is becoming a little bit of a problem for them, and their pitching isn't holding up quite as well as it did. They're now 60-42. The Tigers are still in a good position to win the AL Central. I don't think that's up for debate. Now the question is, where do they finish on the AL side of things? Are they even going to be a favorite going to the World Series out of the AL this year? I would say no on both accounts. I think we've seen them struggle, a little bit before the All-Star break and since with that pitching staff, with that offense. And, they have some guys who have never really been in a pennant race before, and I'm expecting some regression even further from where they are now. Now, of course, they could go out there and add somebody at the deadline, but nobody impactful is expected to be added by the Detroit Tigers. Maybe they add a middle reliever. Maybe they go after one of the elite closers. As far as the lineup, they're not getting Alex Bregman or anybody like that to kind of course correct offensively. They might add a utility player, a platoon type of option there, maybe a DH type of a player. But nothing that's going to completely overhaul the lineup there in Detroit. I think they need to add somebody that is platoon... or it doesn't need a platoon there. If you don't have, you're constantly flipping around your lineup there. It's what their mentality is as a team. And I get it. It's worked for them so far. But at a certain point, you need a player to be in your lineup every single day to count on him to produce against righties, against lefties. That way, when you get into a late game situation, they call upon the lefty against a left-handed bat. He can still handle himself against a left-handed pitcher. Same thing goes for the righty. We'll see if Detroit is able to pull out of this issue that they're having right now. The Yankees finally win one against the Blue Jays today, but the Blue Jays still currently lead in the division, 59-42. Astros, struggling as of late, but having a nice couple of games against the Diamondbacks certainly is working for them right now. They're 3-7 though in their last 10. Astros, they lose Paredes. We saw the injury on Sunday against the Mariners. Paredes pulling up lame on a ball that should have been a double. He pulled up lame between home and first, so he kind of stopped at first and said, I'm done. We'll see how long he ultimately misses here. Yankees, like I said, they finally won against the Blue Jays. They're kind of the team at the top of the wild card heap on the American League side. I'd say they're probably the safest of those teams to probably win a wild card spot this year, but by no means is this decided already. You look at the Mariners, the Red Sox, the Rays, the Rangers, to some extent, I'll say the Guardians as well. Those are the teams that I expect to vie for the wild card spots on the AL side. Royals just seem like they're running out of steam. Angels look like a team that's probably going to stand pat at the deadline, not really add anybody. Twins are certainly going to be selling. They've already started taking serious calls on their rental options. They said they're at least listening on Joe Ryan and Yohan Duran. I do expect them to move Duran for sure. As far as Joe Ryan, I wouldn't be surprised if they waited until the offseason and then figured out where they stand going into 2026. But if they're bowled over, I think he could be moved. But you look at this AL wildcard race, let's go ahead and check on the scores real quick. I want to kind of show where those are at the moment. Because I know the Astros were playing at the moment as well. Still nothing in the fifth there. Great game, both of these games anyway. Brewers on an 11-game win streak with the Miz on the mound against Logan Gilbert for the Mariners. It's been a great pitching matchup so far. Mariners have mustered 3 hits off the Miz, but he has his strikeouts. Logan Gilbert just as dominant as ever anyway. But we'll have to see how that game ultimately ends up. But the Mariners could certainly go into that second wild card spot right now on the AL side. They're a half game up on it because, again, they have one more game, or they have the game they're playing right now over the Red Sox right now. But, I mean, if they lose that game, they go right back into a tie with the Red Sox, and then they're only a game and a half back, or a game and a half in front of the Texas Rangers. Not exactly a place where you want to be right now against one of the hottest teams in baseball. 7-3 anyway. The Guardians 8-2. They've been playing great baseball for about 3-4 weeks now. I'm still not necessarily a believer in it. We'll see if the Guardians themselves believe in their ability to get to a wild card, but we shall see. But look how tight this race is getting on the AL side. Some of the scores from around the league today, some great baseball. Like I said, in our live last night, there was all but basically 2 games that were going to have some type of key intrigue for me, whether it be trade deadline, whether it be standings, playoff races, those kinds of things. For the Rangers, they just need to keep on winning, and that's what they did today. 6-2 winners over the A's. No surprise there with Jacob deGrom on the mound. Rockies, looking like they're going to finish off the Cardinals' playoff chances right now. 7 runs currently defeating the Cardinals in the bottom of the 8th inning. Look like that one's headed towards victory for the Rockies. 0-0 Astros and Diamondbacks, Brewers, and Mariners scoreless as well. Twins have jumped out to a 3-0 lead over the Dodgers. We'll have to see how this team really holds up, though. That's really my wonder for that Twins. If they really want to try to win this season, they're incredibly streaky. They have been all year long. I don't expect them to get on a hot streak and be able to get into the wild card race, but we've seen them go on an incredibly long win streak already this year. Every team, it seems like, has one really big streak like that in them this year. Are the Twins the team with 2? I tend to doubt it, especially against the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are going to be able to win that one against the Twins and kind of quiet some of the doubters out there in Dodger land. Guardians keep on rolling anyway. 6-3 winners over the Orioles there. Clase picking up his 22nd save, making himself an even more attractive candidate at the deadline if the Guardians decide to move him. And yes, those Pittsburgh Pirates, they had Paul Skeens go yesterday. They defeated the Tigers. They have Mitch Keller go today. He defeats the Tigers. Could not have been a better couple of days here for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Couldn't have gone worse if you're a Detroit Tigers fan. Bullpen gave up some runs. Starters gave up some runs. Offense showed that some life in it at the end of these games, but not enough against the best in the game. And Mitch Keller really solidified himself as one of the better arms available in this market, especially considering he's got 3 years left on his deal after the season. Cabrera had a great start against the Padres today. I believe he gave up just a couple of runs in that one. He was very good there. Marlins win 4-3 at home over the Padres. Nationals, this was a good chance for Burns to kind of solidify himself in a major league rotation, and he struggled in that role against the Nationals today. He did lower his ERA, though, a little bit to 6.65. Boston continues to struggle out of the break here. 4-1 is the loss there. Honestly, we talked about how the Red Sox had a great run before the All-Star break. We knew they were going to have that against a very weak schedule. Now, after the All-Star break, we knew they were going to have some difficulty with a much stronger schedule. And that's exactly what's happened here. So what exactly is this team in Boston? Are they the team that we saw before the All-Star break? Or is this a more accurate representation of what this team is capable of? The Rays did pull it out against the White Sox. It was touch and go there for a little bit, but the rally shirt, the rally polo is officially dead. Dan Plesac can officially wash his rally polo for the White Sox there. But a 4-run inning, one of those runs was unearned. Proved to be the difference in the game. White Sox played really well in that one. Couple of interesting pieces to watch in that one as far as trade deadline availability. I'm not convinced that the Tampa Bay Rays won't try to sell off a couple of pieces. Brendan Lau just hit the injured list. I doubt they move him now that he's on the injured list, which means the more likely it is that they will move on from a guy like Yandy Diaz. He's been playing a little bit of DH. They got Aranda over there at first base. They can obviously have Lowe come over and play DH whenever they trade Baez and fill that spot that Caballero's holding down second base right now. I think that's how they'll ultimately roll in the second half here. But I would not be surprised if Diaz is one of the biggest bats that's moved here in the next week and 2 days. Yankees, like I said, pulled it out late. Ben Rice homer in the top of the ninth inning off of Jeff Hoffman anyway. Was proved to be the difference there. Scherzer threw 5 innings, 4 earned in those 5 innings. Had a tough first inning, gave up 3 runs, but the Blue Jays really battled back, played a great game, but just not enough at the end. Angels, again, we told you guys, it just seems like they kind of win one, lose one. It's kind of where they are right now as an organization, which is kind of part of the growing pains of getting some of those younger players to play more consistently. And you gotta be a lot more hopeful for the future of the Angels with what they've got working now with Joe Adell, with Neto and Shanuel. As long as they stand pat, or at least sell some of those pieces and not buy here, I'd say the future is looking brighter and brighter each year that we are removed from Shohei Ohtani. Now that's the darkest of darkest nights when you lose Shohei Ohtani. Your farm system is gutted right before you do it, and it doesn't look like you have much talent coming in your minor league system. Angels have done a nice job of kind of pulling themselves out of this tailspin a little bit. They're still on the downswing, but if they can kind of stabilize this thing throughout the rest of the second half here and develop those prospects at the minor league level, they could have the beginnings of their next competitive team out there in LA as long as they stick to the plan. Braves fell on their face again, 9-0 shutout as the Giants kind of wiped the floor with them again this season. But the Giants kind of stabilizing themselves in a less than competitive wild card race on the NL side. The AL side is very competitive. NL, there's probably 7 teams vying for 6 spots in my opinion. And then Rich Hill, oldest starter in Major League Baseball this year, 45 years old, took the ball for the first time in the Major League game today and pitched fairly well today. Ended up with the loss anyway, but against a Chicago Cubs team that is elite offensively this year, he proved more than capable of holding down his own. I would not be surprised to see his name bandied about at the trade deadline, along with Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, and others from the Kansas City Royals. But a shutout for the Cubbies there. Boyd kind of continuing his great season there, 11-3 now on the season, a 2.2 ERA. Got to consider him as one of the candidates for the NL Cy Young. Paul Skeens I think is running away with it on the NL side, but he at least deserves some flowers so far. All right, let's try to catch up on a few of these comments here and then get into some of the rumors that are happening right now. Tigers have drank the same water as the Dodgers. Tigers, I'd say, have played even worse than the Dodgers. Cubs beat the Royals. Yes, they did. Anthony, welcome in. Michael, I keep on seeing repeated reports, not just from Heyman and Rosenthal, now from Jim Bouton saying that the Marlins are going to trade Kyle. I mean, they could get a king's ransom. Like I said, the biggest piece that we've seen move offensively is Rafi Devers. If he ends up being the biggest piece that moves, there's really not going to be an offensive addition that's going to make a big enough difference to wherever these players end up going. Now, Kyle Stowers, probably one of the top 3 sluggers in the game for the past 30 days, 45 days. He could be on that same level as far as an impactful piece. And he's got control on his deal as well. So if they did move him, it's going to be for a king's ransom. You look at the value on baseball trade rumors, that's where you kind of get the value of, like, say, 10 over what his actual value is in their system. Then it would still make sense in order for the other team to acquire him. He's a difference maker in a postseason lineup. The question is, can he handle the bright lights of October? Can he handle the pennant race? So far, so good, though, this season for Stowers and the Marlins. Cardinals losing to the Rockies. Yes, Cardinals kind of struggling here right before the deadline. Not exactly what you want to show your GM, President of Baseball Ops, that's going out in John Mozeliak. His final time commanding the helm there for the Cardinals before they shift to the new guy. but I'm sure he wanted to try to compete in his final year. It just looks like it's just falling flat here as well. Hill did lose tonight, Sean, but appreciate you guys joining us. If you guys are new here, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up at the bottom of the video. Goes a long way to helping us out. Anthony, Michael, can you do a trade for Ed Cabrera either to the Tigers or Cubs? Tigers, I don't think necessarily need a Cabrera. I think they need to kind of add around the periphery of that team, bullpen and a bat. They could use the back of the rotation starter, I suppose, but that's kind of lower down on the priority list. Now, Cubs, absolutely, that'd be a great fit. We can do that one for you. I'd say Owen Casey being the biggest return there. And then if you did trade Stowers, you immediately fill his lineup spot with Owen Casey from the Cubs. We can do that trade here in just a moment for you. Let's see here. Anthony, I was just reading an article that they were doing a final trade deadline predictions, and they say both Sandy and Joe Ryan might not be traded during the deadline. They're waiting until the offseason. They absolutely should on Sandy because there's no reason to trade him right now, and his value is literally at the lowest it's been since, I don't know, his rookie, well before his rookie year. It's time for them to kind of, figure out what's not working with Sandy, see if they can fix it, and if they can't, cut bait. With him in this offseason, try to trade him to somebody who thinks they can rehabilitate his career. Joe Ryan, I think, is more likely to move in the offseason if they do trade him. But I wouldn't be surprised if a team bowled him over with an offer. Teams get very desperate at the trade deadline, so they might get a out-of-this-world offer for his services, because then you get 3 postseasons runs with Joe Ryan, not just 2. Kyle Tucker stole home. That's pretty cool. Rooker and Mason Miller for Walcott. Welcome in, Ethan. Appreciate you joining us. I think Oakland says no to that one, honestly. Would I do that one as the Rangers? Probably. It'd be close, but I'd probably do it. But I'd say the A's would say no to that one. Manuel, appreciate you joining us. Do Yanks have interest in trading for Seth Lugo? They're looking at starters, controllable starters as well. He does have another year left on his contract. Money is a little bit higher than what I think the Yankees are hoping for. I think their preference would be another high-quality starter. Lugo's been very good so far this year, though. I think their preference would probably be a Joe Ryan, a Cabrera, a Keller. Keller seems to be at the top of their list right now, but we'll see, which option they ultimately go for. Starting pitcher to me has got to be priority number 1. Bullpen's got to be priority number 2. And then I think, it's just a matter of time now until Suarez is in a Yankee uniform. Mariners are at least checking in on his market. I heard the Cubs have checked in on his market. I've heard the Brewers are a team that people are waiting to see if they check on his market as well. I doubt that happens. But there's going to be no shortage of teams interested in a 36 home run hitter. I think that's best, or that's good for third best in the entire major leagues right now. But let's go ahead and look at the NL side of things real quick on the in the wild card race anyway. This is kind of where you're getting some separation here. Brewers, Cubs, of course, look like they're running away in the Central from the other teams there, the Reds and the Cardinals. Cardinals just having some really tough luck lately. I just don't see them really being able to jump these teams in front of them. With that said, that wasn't necessarily the plan going into the year anyway. The plan was about developing the young talent, seeing what that's going to be there for the long term. Cardinals should absolutely be a seller. Dodgers absolutely going to be a buyer here at the deadline. I think they're going to be very opportunistic and look for big transformational moves. Phillies, they already made one of their additions anyway, bringing in Robertson. I hear rumors that they're still looking for more bullpen help. And then, of course, in center field, they have been connected to Luis Robert and Byron Buxton, and on and on the center field list goes. Cedric Mullins is another name to keep an eye out for there. Cubbies, we just mentioned, need an ace at the top of that rotation. I think they will get one. The Mets are looking for an ace at the top of their rotation as well. They're also looking for bullpen help. Phillies and Mets are basically looking for very similar things. The Mets have gotten some really nice performances in their starting staff out of guys you would not have expected it before the season. But they're 58-44. They're right there with the Phillies at the top of the AL East. And then the Padres, kind of in that final wild card spot for now. They've kind of been playing good baseball one week, bad baseball another, kind of treading water all year long. And there they are, 9 games above 500. They lost to the Marlins today, but this is a team that's pretty much stuck with what they've got right now due to the finances that they got tied up in Bogarts, in Tatis Jr., in Machado, etc. They're looking to offload a little bit of money, at least the finance guys are. Padres front office is adamant about not deconstructing this team, but if you could get a controllable starter in there, like a Cabrera, a Joe Ryan, a Keller, somebody along those lines, one of those controllable starters that's out there this year, I think you could see the Padres part with a couple of their expiring deals in return. So we'll have to see if there's some three-team trade possibilities coming from the Padres inside of the next 7 to 9 days. Giants, 2.5 games out of the wild card. They're 3-7 in their last 10. They got the win 9-0 over the Braves today. Not exactly, the world's best team right now, but this was a necessary win for them. They got to get some wins here if they want to try to push for the wild card this year. Getting Rafi Devers was not necessarily about winning this year. It was about winning next year and needing another power bat in that lineup, and that's exactly what they got. Now, Buster Posey has been adamant about trying to compete and get into the postseason this year. I think he would love to do that, to be able to convince free agents that they're, even closer than where I believe they actually are right now. And with so few teams, really playing well outside of those top 6 right now on the NL side, Giants, if they can just add a little bit more depth on the pitching side, I think they'll be right there. I think their offense has enough improvements with the Rafi Devers thing. You got to hope it works out the way that you were expecting it to. But even if it doesn't, if you just need a couple more arms there, and I think you could be right there with the Padres to possibly get that final wild card spot. But the rest of the teams below them, kind of different variations of standing pat to selling here at the deadline. I think the Diamondbacks, if they lose again tonight, I think we could very well see them sell big here at the deadline. Not just their expiring deals, but some of their bigger pieces as well. Let's try to catch up on this last comment here. Verlis, welcome in. Cardinals need to sell. I do agree. Absolutely, the Cardinals should sell, but we'll see if they have the stomach for it. Do you think Arenado eventually gets traded from the Cardinals? I do. Mozeliak was supposed to be meeting with Arenado this week to see where he would be willing to waive his no trade to go. Remember, he was willing to be traded to 5 teams before this in the offseason. He was contemplating going to the Astros for the deal that ultimately got nixed anyway. And so the Astros ended up moving on and bringing in Christian Walker. With the injury to Paredes and their interest right now in Ozzie Albies, that video came out earlier today if you want to check that one out on our site. But there is some rumors about them looking for a left-handed hitting second baseman, but I wouldn't necessarily rule out with the injury to Paredes, and with the offense having issues on a whole, if they went in and tried to bring in a Nolan Arenado as well, who we all know they were interested in before the season. Now that they've got money committed to Christian Walker, are they still interested in him? And then, of course, you got to factor in the finances here. If the Cardinals eat the entirety of the deal for this season and make the Astros pay it all next year, that's something I think the Astros would be willing to do in a heartbeat, because then they don't have to worry about the tax threshold, those kinds of things as well. But got about 25, 26 of you guys with us right now. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe. We'll get into some trade talk here in just a moment. We're going to go ahead and run through the headlines today. There aren't too many rumors out there, but there are some that we need to get into. One is the Mariners and Diamondbacks have discussed Eugenio Suarez. We touched on it earlier in the video, but I think there's more legs here than originally thought, say, about a month ago. Mariners were thought to have corrected some of their offensive issues this offseason, and ultimately their offense has started to backslide a little bit, though. So bringing back Eugenio Suarez, who was with them a couple of years back, I think it'd be another big shot in the arm for them, especially considering the power numbers he's providing this year. Obviously, I expect them to go down if he ends up going to Seattle, because that's just what happens in that ballpark. But they need some more offense there. I don't think they need to add any starting pitching. It's offense, offense, offense for the Mariners at this deadline. We'll see who they ultimately bring in. Twins are looking at their expiring guys: Bader, Castro, Colomb, among others. They try to kind of get some nice pieces in that 11 to 20 range in a lot of prospect pools. If they can get say a better piece for a couple of their expirings, they might even consider combining a couple of pieces. Usually you don't see that too often in a trade, because they want to maximize the overall value, and you do that by trading them separately. But if there's a player they might identify in another club that might be required to send both pieces in the same deal, you could see them doing something like that for a smaller piece, or with their smaller pieces. Now the bigger pieces like Duran, Jax, Ryan, Buxton, I very much doubt that they're looking to move them and, just shove them out the door. Duran, I think they'd be willing to trade pretty easily if you give them the right offer. Same thing goes for Jax, because those are relievers. Those are usually a little bit more replaceable because of the mercurial nature of relief pitchers. One year they're great, the next year they're horrible, the next year they're okay, the following year they're great again. It's just the way bullpens tend to work out. Now, as far as the longer-term assets, Byron Buxton, he's got the no trade. He's not going anywhere. Buxton says he doesn't want to leave anyway. The front office is very happy with him. He's not moving. Pablo Lopez, injured, likely back in September. His value is really, really low right now due to the injury. That's a trade discussion that's likely to happen in the offseason, not at the deadline. And then the last piece there, Joe Ryan. I think he would command a hefty return. Boston, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the Cubs, the Mets, and several other teams that aren't even contenders have reached out about his availability. And I'm sure if the overwhelming offer is there on the table, the Twins would be willing to accept it. The question is, where will that offer come from, and how overwhelming will that offer be? The Blue Jays are looking for another starting pitcher. They are looking at Mitch Keller. The question I have for the Blue Jays, though, is if you bring in Mitch Keller, where exactly does he start in your rotation? Is he taking the ball in Game 1 of a postseason series? Game 2? Game 3? Game 4? What about Game 5? Where exactly does Keller fit in the rotation for the Blue Jays? To me, he kind of fits in the group that they have right now already. Sure, you might put him in 2, but you could easily put him at 4. Gausman, Barrios, Scherzer, among others, are all still there. I don't necessarily view Keller as better than any of those guys. I kind of view him on par with those guys. And if that's not exactly a big upgrade for your team, are you really willing to give up the pieces that you need to do so? Now, the Blue Jays are going to be very aggressive at the deadline. The front office is all on expiring deals. They have to get to the postseason. So that would be part of the impetus for this trade, even considering how nominal the upgrade might be when you're starting, Game 1, Game 2, Game 3 of a postseason series. So we'll have to see what the Blue Jays do. I think any prospect is not off the table for them. If there's a difference-making move, I'm sure they will consider it as well. Let's see here. Poker, welcome in. Arenado isn't much of an upgrade for teams that need a third baseman. I agree with you that he's not as much of an upgrade as he might have been, say, even last year or a couple of years ago. But he's still a good upgrade for a lot of teams that have a lot of struggles offensively. Yankees being one of them, he could be a fallback option there for Suarez. We hear about him to the Yankees so much less though than McMahon and behind Suarez and a couple other guys, like Brian Hayes. But he is still there on the market if the price is right for him. So we'll have to see what happens with the money that's owed to him, though. That's going to be a deterrent. How much are the Cardinals willing to eat on the deal will really facilitate a deal at this deadline, because if they're eating a fair chunk of that deal, they could get a decent return. Not great, though. Mark, you think Texas will get a closer? I think they 100% will get a closer, and I think Leiter will be an ace of the staff when DeGrom and Eovaldi are gone in 3 years. I mean, the first time I've really kind of considered him an ace ever since he had his issues in the minor leagues when he was a top prospect, kind of dropped off for a little bit, had some issues. They figured it out and solved those issues. Now he's at the big league level. The growth that we're now seeing from the first start that he had this season to now is quite prolific. He still needs work as far as finishing off batters once he gets to 2 strikes, and I think Eovaldi and DeGrom are both working with him on that. Which is going to be invaluable for his career, but he certainly shows the ability to be able to, to be an ace at the front of a rotation. I would say as soon as, say, 2 years from now, I think we could look at Jack Leiter being the ace of the staff for the Texas Rangers. Kumar Rocker needs a little bit more seasoning, but we're finally starting to see the fruits of his labor at the big league level. Innings restrictions, I'm sure, will start to play a factor in the second half for the Rangers. So we'll see if the bringing back of Tyler Mahle and John Gray ultimately give the shot in the arm the rotation is going to need here in the second half. Poker, then throw in the amount of money still owed to him. Throw in the amount of money still owed to Arenado. True. I'll hear you, Poker. I just say, the Cardinals are looking to get rid of him. I don't think they're necessarily looking to kick him out the door, but they're not exactly going to be, asking him to come back for dinner or, hey, you sure you really want to go? I don't think they're going to be asking him those kinds of questions. I think this team is ready to move on and just see if they can get him out the door. If that means eating $20 million that's left on his deal and the other team eats, I don't know, what is it, $35 million that's left on his deal, I think the Cardinals would be willing to do that if they get, any nominal piece in return. They get off of the money in the future and just figure things out the rest of the way. Cardinals are trying to win in 26, 27, 28, not necessarily this season. Cobra, Naylor to Padres would be cool. Let's go ahead and start our trade discussion. We'll start with that one. Naylor to the Padres. Now, I know you're a Padres fan, so what would you be willing to give up for Naylor? .3.1, so not a huge value. Lefty stick, not a lot of power this year, but he does have the power potential. The average is really high this year, which is nice. What would you give up if you're the Padres? Remember, money is tight, so you might have money going out as well. Where would you go with this deal? You don't have a lot of top pieces here, but it's not going to require a top piece for a small addition like this. You could do like a Isaac Lowe or Isaiah Lowe. You could do Rodriguez there. Let's say you do 2 starters to the Diamondbacks. And then the piece that goes back, because again the Diamondbacks would like to still stay at least marginally competitive the rest of the way. Hart, no. Wade, no. Gurriel. I guess for the roster spot you could do something like that. Does nothing for the Diamondbacks, but at least gives them somebody to play over there at first base without Naylor. Would I do that trade if I'm the Diamondbacks? Probably, especially considering where they are at in the wild card race. You would trade Crone. Cronenworth, the money is significant. It would do a good thing for the Padres because they need to get off of money here. But I think you're just trading one problem for another. And where exactly is Cronenworth going to play for them? First base? It's not a bad deal. Basically, you're getting a very, not a comparable player, but an MLB useful player in Cronenworth versus Naylor. Expiring, you're going to have to pay him more. Cronenworth, cost certainty, positional flexibility. But you already have Marte locked up at that as one of his natural positions. That's not a bad offer, though. Would I be willing to take the money? I think the Padres, in order to get this deal done, you'd have to incentivize them to take on your money issues. So to do that, let's go a lot cheaper here. You throw in like a Alvarez. I would do that if I'm the Diamondbacks, because then it's not just a one piece and then you're just hoping there. Validate, post it. Padres solve their money issues, keep their team intact, upgrade at first base, all for the low, low price of Cronenworth and Alvarez. That's not a bad deal. Michael, do you agree with the people that are saying that Jack pitches exactly like his dad? No. He actually pitches a little different. A little different style. Rockies just won. Well, another game goes final. Let's go ahead and update those standings real quick. With the Cardinals taking another loss. Losers of 3 straight. Or no, that's the Reds, excuse me. They play Colorado again. Wrap up their series tomorrow. It's not looking good for the Cardinals, though. Anthony, we can go ahead and do your Cabrera to the Cub trade here in just a second. I saw someone do a trade package of Edward Pereira and Anthony Bender to the Padres first, and where do you go? I want to go ahead and do your Cabrera one to the Cubs first, though. Let's go ahead and do that one. Marlins and Cubbies. He had a really good start today. So Cabrera, you're looking 23 and change. You're going to have to overpay, so keep that in mind. I think the piece they would want for sure would be Owen Casey. But that's not going to be enough. You're at 12. I think you could do a Triantos as the second piece in this deal. Now you need roughly another 4 or 5, maybe 6. None of those pieces really fit great. They're only going to trade one of Alcantara and Casey. They could go a little bit cheaper and do like a Juan Tomas and another Melendez piece. 4-for-1, you get 3 years of Cabrera after the season. I kind of like the deal for both sides. Remember, Cubbies are all in, so they're already willing to overpay. And teams are going to know it. Krim for Finnegan. I'd probably look for a better return if I was the Nationals, and I don't want Finnegan if I'm Texas. I'd rather stick with the bullpen arms that we got rather than going for Finnegan. Mark, if I am Texas, would love to get Duran and Jax from the Twins. Duran the 9th, Garcia the 8th, Jackson Armstrong to put out fires. What do you think? I'd love to get both, but I don't think the Rangers have the prospect capital to be able to do both without trading Walcott or Langford, and they're not going to do that for that type of return. Wiggins. I think this gives the Marlins a good return for them. They get 2 pieces that are close, kind of fits with what they did in the draft at least, and then a couple of future pieces that kind of fits with what they've been looking for in return for a trade for any of their rotation arms for the last 2 years. So they kind of get a little bit of both. Not a bad option. Let's go back to the simulator. One trade that I was thinking of while I was watching the Rangers game is Yandy Diaz. He's been one of the league's best hitter for basically the last 30 days or so. On base, slugging, all those kinds of things are really high, and I think he's in the top 5, top 10 in hits over that period of time. They already have a Rand over there at first base. Lowe is going to be coming back off the disabled list in about 15 to 20 days. They would easily be able to fill Diaz's spot in the lineup right now by bringing him back, bringing Lowe back off the disabled list at that time. But if the Rangers added Diaz, that gives them a right-handed complement at first base. The question is, what do they do with Jake Berger at that point? Do they pivot and trade him elsewhere? I think Jock Peterson is going to be at that DH spot. I don't think there's any way you move him, but he is expected back after the All-Star break or after the trade deadline. But Diaz would really give the Rangers exactly what they need: a high on-base guy that sees a lot of pitches, that's willing to take a walk. The Rangers really only have Evan Carter when he's right that does that. Outside of that, the rest of the team is very swing happy. They swing at the first or second pitch. They don't wait to see their best pitch, and they try to crush the ball over the yard. They try to take their A swing off. Diaz is a little bit of a different type of a player for them. Gives them a different element to their game along with Evan Carter, and you got to have a little bit of a mix of everything in that lineup in order to make it all work. I think Diaz would be a great option there and fairly achievable. Unlike Matt Olson, one guy I thought that the Braves would be mighty wise to try to trade here at the deadline. And get a really nice return, maybe even a controllable starter out of it. That's very, very unlikely. But this, with Yandy Diaz, even with the Tampa Bay Rays, currently trying to win a wild card spot, and with the Rangers right on their heels, I think they'd be more than happy to do this type of a trade. They get in return Cole Drake, probably slots in as a starting pitcher for them next year, probably takes over for Zach Little in that staff. Now, Morabel is having a down year, probably doesn't figure a great piece, but I was looking for more of that value of player in that $2.5 to $3 million player, $3.5 million, and I think that deal gets done. I would not trade another starting pitcher though. I'd try to hold on to those guys for other deals in the future. I'd be looking to trade a bat around that same valuation. Let's see here, Jackson Armstrong to put out fires. I would do that trade if I was Texas. In 1 second, he would hit third in the Rangers lineup. Ethan. Would Diaz hit third in front of Simeon? I think the question then would be, what do you do for a left-handed hitter? Cal Raleigh just hit his 39th home run. Let's check on the scores real quick to see where that one's at. 1-0. Mariners in front. Diamondbacks have taken a 1-0 lead over the Astros. Their offense continuing to struggle. Eduardo Rodriguez throwing a nice game today. 6 1/3 already. Twins still leading 3-0. Rest of the games are now final. including that Rockies one that you were mentioning earlier. Let's kind of pivot from this trade. Let's try to build a better one off of this one. So if we're putting our GM hat on, we're the Texas Rangers. We're looking for a bat here at the deadline. We're looking for a bullpen arm. I know we got a fair amount of Rangers people in here, so we'll do a couple of Rangers trades, and then we'll do another organization here in a minute. I think Yandy would probably hit third, but let's go ahead and do the trade first. I like the deal that I came up with, but I think I can do a little better. I think the ask would be Cole Drake, probably the most likely. Let me do the Rays here real quick. I don't think you'd be able to get two pieces out of this team. I think you're just trying to pry one and just get away from the trade as quickly as you can. So you do Cole Drake. And then you're looking for another bat in this range. A Devin Fitzgerald, I think, would be a bit of an overpay. Is there a bat on this team that they're trying to get rid of? I know they have little on the pitching side, but that's... And he has a little bit of value, though. Danny Jansen. If Higashioka is injured for a period of time here, he could be an interesting piece, but I doubt it. Nobody else really fits as far as a trade here. Rotvelt, Theis, maybe. Rangers have already had him in the last year as well. Fairbanks, that's going to be too expensive of a package, I would say. Let's take out Fitzgerald and go just slightly cheaper. Morabell's not having a good year. Otherwise, he would probably be in this trade. Hageman. Cam Cauley. That could be an interesting piece to kind of finish it off. That's not a bad deal. Is there a better option than Cam Cauley? Not that I'm willing to include. That's a little bit better piece than Morabell. So that's our trade. First trade is done. Yandy Diaz brought in to the Rangers. Gives us our righty bat. Now we have Jake Berger. That's kind of a superfluous piece left on the roster. You could go out there and upgrade your left-handed DH first base option. Go after a Josh Naylor. That would be a possibility. I kind of like that idea. Rosario for Yandy and Fairbanks. I'd rather have better closers than Fairbanks. He's having a good year, but I'd rather go after a Duran, a Bednar, pieces like that. Fairbanks, I question about his ability in the postseason. I'm looking for certain traits in a closer as well. All right, there's trade number one. We're going to leave this page up so we can kind of follow the trail of trades. Let's see here. Just missed a comment. What was it? Mark, what do you think of Texas sending Langford down to get his timing down? I love his work ethic, don't get me wrong. And I love the player. Love what he brings, speed, defense on the field every day. He has not changed his approach once since he's come up. He really hasn't. He's learned about Major League pitching. He's learned what pitchers are trying to do to him. But he hasn't really adjusted to anything that they're trying to do. Now he's trying to recognize the pitches that they're trying to throw him in certain situations. But now he's starting to guess at it and taking strike three on a fastball right down the middle too many times now over his hitless streak, or I guess you could say a one hit, in his last 20, 25 at bats now. And that hit was a ground ball to short that Wilson just wasn't able to beat him on. He needs to work on that adjustment factor. Timing is one thing, but his swing is the same every single time, which is a good thing. But he's not changing his aggressive nature in the box. He's not changing which pitches he's trying to swing at. He's not selecting a certain area of the zone if he's up 3-0 in the count, sitting on a fastball in a certain hot zone that he hits. He's not sitting on those pitches. If he sees a strike in a 3-0 count, he's going to swing at it, either roll over on it or going to pop it up or foul it off instead of wait for his pitch, which is exactly what he should be doing in those types of situations. I still think he's going to be a stud, has the ability to be the September Player of the Month. We saw that last year as a rookie. I think he's had a better season already, but the question is, will he ever reach the summit of his potential? I have my doubts. Langford having a bad year and still going to have 25-25 season. He's a stud. I think he's got a chance to be a 30-30 guy. Cole Drake will win Cy Young in 2028. I mean, if you trade him to the Rays with their track record, he very well could. But let's go ahead and do step 2 of our trade deadline. Now, we got Jake Berger. He's obviously a superfluous piece now. We could trade him in a separate deal to a team that's looking for a short-term a short-term first base option until they find a better one. Jake Berger still has 3 years left on his deal. So, where could we go for an upgrade? Well, we've added our right-handed hitter now. You could play Josh Smith over there at first as well. You don't necessarily need to bring in a left-handed first baseman. Jock Peterson's going to be coming back as well. If you can offload that deal, that'd be great, but I doubt you're going to be able to. Osuna was sent down. Hellman was brought back up, but you're going to have Haggerty in his spot eventually. But you're also looking for an elite closer. So let's start there. We've added our bat. Let's add our closer. And I'm going to go for the high-priced one first. I want to bowl over the Twins to get Duran. Actually, I'm going to keep this the same. I did the Rangers first in the other deal. So, Twins. We're looking major league pieces. All right, so Duran, 2 years left on his deal. You bring him in. I think the Rangers, the best piece that they could trade him would be Rosario. Top 100 guy when healthy, but has dropped into the top 200 now due to the injury. But you're at 20.5 versus 15.3. All right, so I think you're looking for somebody in this range here. You could do Osuna. His value's dropped a little bit due to his struggles with limited playing time. They are looking for controllable pieces, or at least some guys that are going to be available in the outfield, but I think that'd be a little underwhelming. I think they'd want a little bit more on top of Osuna, and if you're giving Rosario, Osuna, and another piece, might be getting it a little expensive for Duran. You could do Dreiling. That'd be another option. Let's say we go ahead and try the Osuna route. Let's leave Osuna alone for a second. We need what? 5 and change? So you could do a couple of... This is where you could do Morabel, who's having some struggles at high A. But he's not really a tradable asset right now. Berger over at first does nothing for them, so you're not trading him in this deal. Bradford, another injured pitcher. You already got one guy injured. Why would they want another one? You could do Bratt in this deal. His value is certainly better than the 2.9 that's at right now. His value is probably more like a 4. But that still doesn't get you quite there. So I think you're probably going to have to include Dreiling in this deal. That's not bad. It's really not. But I think the Twins would be wanting one more piece. I think they'd say, yeah, that's a nice trade. Yeah, that's a nice piece in Rosario, but he's injured. Yeah, Dreiling's starting to figure it out, but he's just starting to figure it out. Give me one more piece, especially when every other team in the market is looking for a guy like Duran. So this might get it done in the offseason, but I don't think it's getting it done right now at the deadline. So, with that being said, where do you go next? Let me go back over to the Twins for a second. We're going to look at the expiring deals again. We talked about Bader. Willie Castro, I think, would be a great piece as kind of a bench utility player. That'd be a very interesting piece for them. I doubt they would do them together. But if they did, that's when I'd probably be willing to trade Santos. A little too rich. Let's go a little lower. All three of these pitchers are starting to take strides. That's why it's so tough to trade them right now when their value is so perceived low. I'd probably want one more small piece just to finish it off if I'm the Twins. Small. So I'm thinking like Gutierrez, Alstrom, Curvelo, Krim. Rangers could need the roster spot, so if you throw Krim in there, that could work. Not that he necessarily moves the needle at all, but it gives him another piece to utilize. Zeke Duran, he has no value. A team like the Twins could try to make some value out of him, though. I think he'd be more valuable than Krim, though. So we could do that. Duran. His value literally is 0 right now. And it would free up a Major League roster spot and a 40-man roster spot, obviously. If I'm the Rangers, I do that in a heartbeat. If I'm the Twins, speaking as a Twins fan, we're getting a top 200 pitcher when healthy, but who knows what he's going to be like when he's healthy. Usually those procedures have gone well in the past. Dryling's starting to figure it out. Second-round pick. Tigers pitching well, about to get into Double-A. Duran immediately fills the role of Castro on the roster. And I might slide Jax temporarily to closer for now, until I trade him as well. That's not a bad deal overall. Let's go ahead and validate the trade, post it. So step 1, we added the bat. Step 2, we add the elite reliever. We add the utility player. Cody Freeman goes to the minors. Obviously, he's not ready for this moment yet. This is just getting his feet wet at the moment. I know you guys are Rangers fans, saw him get his first Major League hit. He's not ready for October baseball yet. But next year, he could be a bench piece for them, much like Willie Castro is this year, or would be the rest of this way for the Rangers. I don't think this necessarily finishes it off for the Rangers, though. I think with Martin going down, I think they would try to do another move as well. I'm going to do a little bit of a buy and sell in this deal. Rangers are going to need spots in that bullpen. And one team I'm going to go to is the Mets. All right. I think Jackson, who's had some closing experience this year, is probably the least likely guy to stick on this Rangers bullpen through the postseason. So you trade him to the Mets. He's got negative .6, but gives them at least something. Majors, trying to remember if they have another piece that they could send elsewhere as well. Minter with the injury. Stanek, Davinsky. I mean, you could probably get a minor league reliever. Like a very low cost one. Maybe like an Alvarez back. I think that might be a little rich, though. Yeah. Alvarez or Banks. Say they put Banks in there. He's a year older. Easier to move. Alright. Now, the third deal that I would make is for a hitter. Adolis to the Mets. They're not trading Adolis Garcia. if the rumors end up being true that Miami is trading Kyle, how about for him for your Rangers? We can do a trade like that. It's going to be a big one, though. And we've already traded our best piece that's readily tradable in Rosario. So it's going to get interesting. Adolis and maybe another piece to the Rays for Jake Mangum. No, thank you. And Yandy Diaz. I like the speed of Mangum, but he's not a great hitter. He's kind of the Hellman the Rangers have right now. I don't need him. Diaz, though, is the piece I want. In case you guys are just missing it, this is kind of the series we're doing right now. We're kind of playing GM at the deadline and kind of making a series of deals to complete a team. We're starting with the Rangers. We're going to do another team here in just a moment. But Heel, this is the trade you just missed out on if you are just joining us. Yandy Diaz to Texas in exchange for Cole Drake and Cameron Cawley. Slight overpay. You might need to overpay even more than Cawley. But I think Drake would certainly get the ball rolling on a deal. And if you put a decent second piece with him, I think that would put the Rangers right at the front of the line for his services. Maybe go a little bit more expensive with a piece for than Cawley, but I think he's the type of player the Rays would target and somehow find a way to make him into a 2020 guy at the big league level. It's just what the Rays do. And then Cole Drake wins the Cy Young, like you were saying earlier in the video, for the Rays in 28. It's just what the Rays do. But let's go ahead and finish off this trade here. We'll look at Stowers just to see if it would make sense. To me, the Rangers have already traded Rosario. The second deal we made was with the Twins. We trade basically our second best option as far as trading in Dreiling, and our first in Rosario. Another young pitcher in Isaac Tiger. So they basically have gutted 3 elite starters coming in their farm system. They have many coming, but we'll see what they do. Now, the trade that we made yesterday was for Cabrera, White, and Noble Mayer in exchange for Langford and another piece as well. I'm still a fan of that deal. I think that would be a good one for the Marlins. But if we were to go to Stowers, where would the Rangers go? You have Walcott, you have Carter. You're not moving those guys or Langford in this deal. You could do Robert Garcia. I don't see that as an option, though. Smith, not going to happen. Your first tradable piece really would come down to Castillo or Moore. I don't think that gets the conversation really going for Stowers. So I think that's unlikely to happen. So where else could they go for another high ability hitter here at the deadline? I know you guys are a fan of Marcell Ozuna. If I'm getting Yandy Diaz, I don't need Ozuna. So you got Duran to close. Can you also get Cade Smith? It'd be too much to be able to bring him in. You need to think lower cost items. In fact, I'm going to change this up just a little bit here. Still think of Luke Jackson getting pawned off to a team that needs a reliever at the deadline. That's the thought process by sending Jackson to the Mets from a roster construction standpoint. But to me, Langford struggles. His value to me is going to plummet in the offseason unless he figures it out here over the final couple of months. I would trade him before his value drops because I think he still has star potential. Even if his value drops, I still think he would have star potential. But let's kind of look at that trade that we had, outlined last night. Sure, you're losing a couple of elite starting pitcher prospects that are coming, but if you trade Langford in this deal, you immediately rebuild some of that. Let's see here, Cabrera, and where is he? There's Mayer. Okay, so Rangers, we were including Cam Cawley, I believe, in this deal as well last night. So if we already traded Cawley, Say you spend Morabel the other way as well. There you go. 2 offensive pieces. And the Marlins are getting a little bit more value with Langford and Morabel. I don't think it's enough to knock it off the table here, but you want to keep Noble? He's been effectively wild. You give me Thomas White? I love Thomas White. Sending Anthony Bender to the Rangers? Not a big enough improvement. My dream pickups in the bullpen would be Bednar for setup and Duran as our closer. Well, I might have that coming next for you, Heel. In a year where a 240 batting average as well as average, Yandy would be an amazing pickup for the Rangers. Kind of my thoughts. The Rangers don't really have anybody besides Evan Carter who does what he does, and he does it at a much better rate. Walks, on-base percentage, contact rate, all those kinds of things. I think if the Padres were willing to talk Luis Arraez, I would be willing to talk about him as the left-handed complement offensively. In fact, that could be the third team here. They need controllable pitchers. They need to get off of some money anyway. So if instead of sending Cabrera to the Rangers, because again, the only reason we'd be acquiring him is to flip him. So Cabrera would go to the Padres in this deal. Gives them a long-term answer in the starting staff, with Cease and King both heading to free agency. Strengthens their staff for the postseason run as well. What's it going to cost for the Rangers? You could go get Suarez, absolutely. You're not getting Tatis. Oh, and by the way, one name that's having a lot of success over the last month or so that nobody's been thinking about, Xander Bogaerts for the Padres. Starting to live up to the contract a little bit more. Good news for Padres fans. But obviously with the no trade, he ain't going anywhere. Machado ain't going anywhere. Tatis ain't going anywhere. So you got to think small here. Now you're getting 23.3 in valuation here. You're going to have to give to get. But you don't have many prospects. You're mainly going to be dealing from your major league staff. Do they have the pieces to get it? And honestly, they really don't. I mean, if you're including Salas, that'd be a little too much of an overpay, and it does nothing for any of the people in this deal. Where else could you throw Cabrera that would help you out this year if you're the Rangers? Controllable starters are also of need with the Atlanta Braves. We've done those trades before. We're not going to do that one again, but that would be another team looking for a controllable piece. Cardinals are looking for a starting pitcher. He would be a great starter for them. Marlins have done trades before with the Cardinals. That could be an interesting one. They don't really have an offensive piece that would really fit for the Rangers besides maybe a Brendan Donovan. But that would be a bit of an overpay, though, if you're the Cardinals. But if you're getting Cabrera, it would certainly get the ball rolling. Cardinals would want more back in return, obviously. Just out of curiosity. I'm just wondering. I don't think Brendan Donovan would ever move. But if the Cardinals did get a controllable starter of Cabrera's caliber, Jake Latz, if Drake hadn't been traded, that would have been another intriguing piece here. Doesn't really fit on this squad. It's not going to work. It's just too big of a deal for Donovan. And I don't think there's anybody else that would really interest the Rangers, at least this season. Newt Barr doesn't do it. Burleson a little bit, but I don't think they would move him. Let's go to another club here. We're looking for a place to send Cabrera here at the deadline. Places looking for controllable pitching. That's a little bit too high of a cost there, Ethan. Acuna's good, but he ain't good enough for both of those pieces. Rangers would probably have to get Olsen out of that deal as well. Maybe even Riley, and then you'd be really close. Rangers might have to throw in a couple of small prospects, a couple of single A pitchers, and then you might have a deal. All right, Another team looking for controllable pitching, Yankees, but they're not going to trade anybody out of their lineup. I'd look for teams that are selling that might have a lineup piece that they would be willing to move to get a controllable starter. Quan from the Guardians makes some sense, but his value's got to be way too high. 47, yeah, it's way too high. Milwaukee as the third team. They do need some more pitching. But they're not going to give you anybody out of their lineup. They're looking for lineup additions. Nobody really fits there. Astros aren't going to do it. Angels could be. You send maybe Ward back in this deal, but then you'd rather have Cabrera anyway. He's much more valuable of a piece. You don't want Joe Adele back. That doesn't do anything for you. Doesn't quite fit there. Cubs don't have the pieces to give you, although they would love to give you like Owen Casey and others. Diamondbacks with if they trade everybody at the deadline, that could be an interesting spot. Buying and selling. They don't have to shell out the money for Kelly or Gallen. If they do this, they trade both of those guys at the deadline. Now, okay, let me think about this. This could make some sense. Cabrera to the Diamondbacks. They need controllable starting pitching if they're not going to re-sign Kelly or Gallen, which I think they'll sign one but not both. And even if they did sign one, I'm not sure they would need Cabrera. But if they let both of those guys go and decided not to pay the market of free agent value here, that could be an interesting one. What would the Rangers need from the Diamondbacks to make this make sense? Well, to me, Naylor immediately fits this deal like a glove for the Rangers. Absolutely fits on the money here. That's pretty interesting. And you're going to need a roster spot. You got Jock Peterson coming back. You have your future pieces for the long-term piece in Langford you're giving up. I'm getting close to a deal. I'm thinking about something. He just played there last year, and it would only cost the Diamondbacks giving up an expiring piece in Josh Naylor, taking on the money of Jock Peterson for next season, and you get Cabrera out of this deal. Now, I think they'd still have to give up one more piece to make this make sense, but you're telling me an expiring deal in Josh Naylor for a number 2-3 starter? Diamondbacks say yes to that all day long. But I think you'd need to put in one more piece. Because again, you're giving up a 65 Langford. I think you need one more piece in this deal. Even if it was a small piece. Drew Jones, the Rangers had a lot of interest in him. His value is only at 8.2. The Diamondbacks the Marlins would be getting Langford out of this deal. You're giving up Cabrera, White, and Mayer in exchange for Langford and Morabel. That's your piece of the deal. But instead of the Rangers keeping Cabrera, this is the second part of the deal, is that they trade away Cabrera to get in another piece. That'd be a very intriguing deadline deal. I still say the Diamondbacks are getting the best end of this deal by a mile. But Drew Jones, what does his numbers look like in the Diamondback system? How good of a piece is he? I know he had incredible potential, but I heard he was having struggles at one point, and he's still having struggles. Yee. Honestly, I wouldn't go for him anyway. Okay, Eugenio Suarez is not going to go in this deal. I think that one's, going to the Yankees. You're not getting him. Maybe you do a Merrill Kelly back in return. No, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Martinez, a bullpen arm for the future. I think he's injured right now, if I remember correctly. But Justin Martinez, that would be a very interesting piece. Radney. Where is Radney? 21, rookie ball. No thank you. I did see Dix as well. High A. There you go. And he's playing well-ish in high A. This is getting close. A lot closer than I thought it would be. I'm kind of leaning towards Martinez or getting Kelly and then flipping him somewhere. But that's too much flipping for 9 days. Gilbert Diaz, what are his numbers? Diaz. He's not on the list. Okay. I don't think any of the other pieces fit really well. Okay, so if you did that, say you do Justin Martinez to the Rangers, he goes on the 60-day IL. Arizona Diamondbacks. Search Justin Martinez. Tommy John, he would be back late next year as a bullpen arm. So you wouldn't get any use out of him right now. But next year you could. So he would be a bet for the future for your bullpen in late 26, mostly in 27, when the last piece of this deal would be gone. That's fairly close. I still think the Diamondbacks are getting a massive bargain here. Getting a number 2-3 starter for the cost of an expiring and injured pitcher and taking on the money of Peterson. Yes, you're giving up Langford, but you're immediately helping your lineup right now. The question is who would take over in left if Langford was gone. You'd probably have some combination of Smith out there. We're not even including Berger in this deal. Berger could still be your complement at DH. And you got Castro as well. He can probably platoon out there. It's close. I don't think it's all the way there, but I think it's close. Martinez. Young, Berger, and Walcott to the D-backs for Suarez, Naylor, and Pfaadt. Ooh. Like I said, I think Suarez is going to go to New York. Like, I just think they're going to overpay whatever team is willing to give for Suarez. They're going to outbid it. That's just what they're going to do. He seems to be like Aaron Judge's piece that he wants them to go after. And I think Cashman understands the assignment. He's going to go get him. But this is a very interesting deal. Gets the Rangers out of the money on Peterson. They would have a hole in left field, which, wink, wink, Kyle Tucker's a free agent next year, or in the offseason. There were rumblings in the offseason a few months ago about Kyle Tucker possibly being a target for the Rangers in the offseason. Bregman as well. You think they get Kyle and Edward from Miami? Maybe. But I think they're already getting way more than their value right now. But if they did, say they did send Stowers here, you could give up one of these prospects here, Caldwell or Waldschmidt. They're doing what? Caldwell, Waldschmidt, better, but not at AA. There's Diaz. That's the one I was looking for. He hasn't pitched very much, but he has been on the Major League team. What about the minors? Okay, that makes more sense. AAA, yikes. No thank you. Huh. Lynn? No. You're not getting any other prospects out of there for that type of a deal anyway. That'd be a very interesting deal, though. I was not thinking of the Diamondbacks as a fit for this deal, but this would be an interesting one. Lawler, he is a local boy for the Rangers, but he doesn't really fit anywhere for the Rangers to play him. He kind of fits in that same mold with Foscue and Duran. Although I think he's probably a better version at this point, because we already know what Foscue and Duran are. We don't really know what Lawler is at the Major League level. I just don't think you're getting back enough Major League talent to help you this year if you're moving Langford, which is the whole reason to make the move anyway. You'd need another outfielder coming back. And I don't think you'd get Stowers back in that deal. You're saying Lawler to Miami, he can play third base? Okay, that would make sense. But again, let's say you send him to the Diamondbacks. What is Lawler's value anyway here? $3.9? No. That doesn't make sense. No, go away. Let me see if anybody else makes sense off of this team. They really don't. 2-run Tater? Okay, let's take a look. What are these scores at? Mariners still winning 1-0. Come on, Brew Crew. Astros take a 2-1 lead over the Diamondbacks late. Suarez is up. Is he going to strike out or hit a homer? My guess is strike out. Yep, he struck out. Wah, wah, wah. 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts. I think this deal is a lot closer than I thought it was going to be, but I still don't think it's completely there. If you take out Martinez, Is there anybody that fits in that 15 range on the Major League side that would fill the hole of Langford? Nobody really does. So I don't think that would happen. But it is a very close deal. But it wouldn't, ultimately it would not get done. I don't think the Rangers would be getting enough for what they're giving up in Langford. Okay. Let's do one last try at this before we do another team. Where else could we send Cabrera at the deadline? Suarez, like I said, he is going to go to the Yankees. Mark it down in pen, stone, book it, take it to Vegas. It's going to happen. I am not your financial planner. Do not take this as financial advice. Usual disclaimers, but it's a certainty. The one player I'm kind of going back to and thinking about is Burleson. Let me go to the Cardinals stats. Because to me, he's probably their third or fourth best player. Plays in right, 12 homers, 293 average. 809 OPS. He would represent a good enough piece to replace Langford right now. And with 3 years of control, that would be very interesting. Let me look at the game logs recently. 30 days, 304 average. Power numbers aren't quite there, but average is there. March, hit 250. April, hit 260. May, 3. June, 317. July, so far, 291. So the heat's starting to get to him a little bit. But he does bring some power. 2 home runs, 10 walks. I wish you could see the number of pitches seen as well. How many walks has he taken so far? 24 walks on the year? How many in the last 30 days? All 10 of them. Okay. That'd be a very interesting first piece in a deal here. Rangers need a right-handed bat. Well, if you're getting Diaz, still remember, we're kind of finishing off the thought process here of finishing the trade deadline for the Rangers. So, first trade they would have made was bringing in Yandy Diaz. You send Coldrake, Cawley in that deal. We've talked about the merits of that deal for both sides already. Rewind about 45 minutes, I believe, for that conversation. The second deal that we would make is we would bring in a closer and a utility guy in Castro, filling the roles of the elite closer and the replacement for Duran. You give up probably your most tradable asset in Rosario right now. Bit of an overpay in both deals, but that's what happens at the deadline. Now this deal is all about getting smaller, more tradable assets here than Langford. Breaking it up a little. So you basically help out your farm system and make other tradable assets by bringing in Mayer and White. White could even be in your rotation in 2 years. Both of those guys are at high A right now for the Marlins, so they're completely untested. But Cabrera is the controllable asset that you have right now. Bird in the hand, But you don't necessarily need Cabrera, so he's the piece you flip as a controllable starter to a team that needs a controllable starter. So kind of picking up where we were just a second ago, the thought process here would be Donovan would be your preference. I don't think you could get that high to make this trade work, to make it make sense. But I think you could get an Alec Burleson as kind of your first piece. That would make some sense. Why do I want to trade Langford so bad? Well, because I think he's such a valuable piece. I've always been a guy that would trade the number one pick in the draft for 3 future first round picks and the number 10 pick. I always want to look at adding more and more assets. So I always want to be the one trading the best piece and getting a plethora of talent back to where one of them eventually comes up, and then you trade that piece and do the same thing, and then do it again, and do it again, and do it again. That's how you build a really strong infrastructure as a team. And that's kind of what I see with Langford. I see his value going down in the offseason to where his trade value won't be as high. You still hope he turns out to be the superstar that you want him to be, but at that point, you're locked in. Either he does become the star that you're always hoping for, or he doesn't, and you lose all value in the player. So by doing this, say Langford becomes the superstar for the Marlins. Fantastic. Would love that for him. But as the Ranger fan, I'm still getting a piece that I can hope on. White. I got the 2 guys that were drafted in the first round in compensation round A, Mayer and White together. I'm getting a guy that fills Langford's spot better in the lineup right now in a year I'm trying to win a World Series. All of these guys have control. And oh, by the way, I'm dealing Cabrera. I'd still get a little bit more in this deal. The other deal that I was getting close on with the Diamondbacks, I'm getting off of Peterson's contract. I'd have the ability to sign a guy in free agency like Kyle Tucker because I'm now off of the money on Peterson. And yes, as Evan says, trying to sell high, absolutely. Okay. You could get Helsley in this deal. I think the last part of the deal, if we didn't do, or the last trade I was going to make was for Bednar, but if I didn't make that deal, Helsley would be a great 8th inning option. I don't see anybody else really making sense in here. Maton, But if you could do Cabrera, it's very close there as well. I'm not sure I'd do it straight up, but for a couple of smaller prospects, I might do it right there. But it's close. Let's do one last check just to make sure I'm not missing anybody. I still think the Braves would be a great option here. They have major league talent that could easily be traded for Cabrera. Any other team? We talked about Kwan, but his value is a little too high. Clase, you could go for a dominant bullpen, but again, you'd still have to include more, and you'd need another hitter in the lineup to replace him. Then you have a really great rotation, which absolutely would be fantastic, but then your lineup, which already has problems, becomes even more problematic, and you don't have any other way out of that deal as well. That's why I wouldn't do that, Ethan. I would not combine assets like that for a Paul Skeens. Now, if it was a finishing piece on a World Series team, absolutely. I think the Rangers could very well be that kind of a team by the end of the year. But I'm not convinced that if they made that trade that you're talking about right there, that right now I'd put them down as World Series favorites on the AL side or even winning over the Dodgers. I'd say Paul Skeens probably takes the ball in game 1. I'd say DeGrom gets the ball game 2, Eovaldi game 3. You come back in game 4 with Skeens. That's a really tough rotation to overcome. Don't get me wrong, but that lineup, you could certainly pitch around it. You put DeGrom on the trade market, and if you get a good package, take it, especially for an injury-prone player. You're not getting anything for DeGrom anyway. That's the one thing I can't stand about this site is everybody wants to trade away DeGrom and basically give the Rangers a bag of beans. Like, no. The Rangers are very happy paying what they're paying DeGrom because he is worth every penny when he's healthy. And by the way, he's been the guy that's taken the ball every start this season. Every start. You can't say that about Leiter, Rocker, Eovaldi. Corbin you could, but he missed the first start. He's been durable this year. Injury prone, maybe, but not this season. Rangers will win 1-0 every game in the 10th. Possibly, Ethan. Very possibly. Let's finish up this conversation, though. I do want to get on to some last couple of trades before we head out for the evening. Tomorrow we'll have 2 different lives we'll be doing. One in the afternoon and then one in the evening as well. We'll have our updated power rankings in the evening show. So be sure to join us for that one. Hit that like, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Follow us on X at Upside Ascend and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. Let's finish up this train of thought, though. Where else could you send Cabrera for a starting pitcher? Controllable asset. You could go to the Angels, I suppose. Happy Ward could be your piece out and left. And then you do Ohapi behind the plate. I don't think they would do Ohapi. Maybe do a Ben Joyce. That'd be close. That'd be very intriguing. Not quite enough, though. And then the last time I'm going to scan here. Let's say you did go to the Cubs. They're the team that wants Cabrera anyway. You want the Major League piece preferably, but I think Casey again would be the piece that would go in this deal for Cabrera. He would go to the Rangers. He would probably go immediately into the lineup for the Rangers as well. But again, you need more Major League talent, and they're not going to give much off of this roster because they're trying to win as well. Kelly, not going to happen. You're going to need roughly another 10 from the Cubs. So you could go Triantos to help give you a depth option at third base eventually if Young doesn't work. That could be an interesting piece to the Rangers, excuse me. Now you're only 2.7 away. I think you're close there. I think if you go with another 3, you got the deal. Like Juan Tomas. Let me pull up the Cubs organization real quick. Casey, they're number 1. Last 10 games. 5 for 5 today. Home run, 2 doubles. Whew. He's ready, man. Look at that hot stretch he was in from the 4th until the 8th. He is ready for the big leagues. It's right behind my head, sorry. All right, but you're not getting Alcantara in this deal either. Triantos was the other piece here. Career this year. He's at AAA. He's not having a good year, though. So maybe not Triantos in this deal. Go back. Maybe rebuild your starting or your farm system a little bit there with another starter. That would make sense. Instead of Triantos, you go Wiggins. That'd be a good piece. And then maybe Tomas to round it out. Welcome in, Depressed Twins fan. Appreciate you. Primarily a Rangers fan myself, but Twins are what my first ever favorite team was. Growing up in South Dakota for a few years when I was a kid. I'll show you the trade we made here in just a minute for the Twins, if that happens. You could get a nice bat for DeGrom. His value is negative 36. Like I said, nobody's offering the Rangers much of anything right now for Jacob DeGrom because of that contract. Literally, that's why I said they're offering him a bag of beans. I'll show you guys what people are offering for Jacob DeGrom right now. It's insane. Makes you sick just looking at the return. Rangers trying to win this year, and they're offering him futures. The Rangers are offering the future of Langford here. And getting a bunch of futures, yes, but Casey immediately goes in the lineup. I think that deal probably gets done. Tomas is their number 11. Not barely hitting anything so far. He just signed in January. Light hitting, shortstop so far. Ronnie Cruz. A little bit better, but not by much. In fact, you could probably take out Tomas and go even cheaper with the return. I think I will. I'll cut him a little bit of a savings here. Melendez, what is he doing there? I keep throwing him in deals. There he is. He's at A-ball, 2 teams, 190. Cepeda. Cepeda is at 15, 203 at A-ball. He was good last year in rookie ball. Not so much this year. Myrtle Beach Pelicans, been by their stadium. Really cool looking stadium out there in Myrtle Beach, by the way. I think Jerome Bettis actually owns that team. Yes, that Jerome Bettis, Pittsburgh Steelers running back, I think he actually owns or is part of the ownership group for the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. They had all kinds of signage around the ballpark when I went there, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Jonathan Long, Cole Mathis, Long and Mathis 13. A-ball not hitting much. Long, AAA. Okay. Strikeouts are a big problem. So you go Jonathan Long. There you go. Yeah, I would do that deal. Like imagine DeGrom and Walcott for Bayo, Duran, and more prospects. You're not getting that return, though. You put DeGrom and Walcott in that deal. You're getting 30 valuation. You're not even getting Duran, let alone Bayo and prospects. Walcott is, what, 61 for the Rangers? DeGrom is negative 36. In fact, it's even lower than what I thought. It'd be 25. Validate, post. So then Casey immediately goes into the lineup. He wouldn't play every day, but he would probably play the majority of the time. If he proved he could handle it, he would stay. If he didn't, then we'd probably go with a platoon of Smith and Castro in left with Haggerty mixed in. But I think Casey would be able to hold down the fort there. And then the last deal is the easy one here. Rangers, Pirates. And I've been saving him for this deal, and that's Alejandro Osuna. Of course, you could hold on to Osuna in this deal. Did I trade Dreiling in that deal? I think I did. I did. So you could do Fitzgerald, Santos, and another offensive piece. That has a little bit of potential. You trade Foscue there as well. Does that even get you close? I think it does. Yeah, that'd be a good deal. And then Bednar. It's a bit of an overpay, but hey, you're basically just clearing a roster spot by throwing Foscue in it, which is why the value looks a little skewed. Validate, overpay, that's fine. Don't you want to get younger and stay competitive? I do, but trading DeGrom does not make us more competitive. So our final bullpen looks something like Duran, Garcia, Bednar at the back end, with all the other pieces they still have. Flip Jackson to somebody else at the deadline for the roster spot. But by doing this trade this way, you keep Osuna in case Owen Casey can't do it at the major league level yet. Osuna's not going to develop into a power hitter. He's going to be an average guy at best. So he's going to be kind of the... Josh Smith is a valuable piece, don't get me wrong, but he's not the difference-making piece that makes you win a World Series. He's not the engine of the vehicle. Osuna's never going to be the engine for that outfield. His best ability is probably going to be as somebody's fourth outfielder on a championship team. And you could even do the Berger trade if you wanted to for Naylor. But that'd be a lot of trades to do at the deadline. We already did 4. You get Yandy Diaz takes over at first. Duran and Castro. You get Casey and all the pitching prospects that you want. And a prospect at first base in Jonathan Long. And then you get Bednar for the back end of your bullpen as well. Those aren't bad. All right, we've done a lot of Rangers talk there. Let's do one other team and a couple more trades before we wrap up here. But I'll go ahead and do that DeGrom discussion as well, just to kind of show you where it's at for DeGrom. You think the Rangers should buy or sell? Absolutely buy. They've already committed to buying as well. Is Andrew McCutchen going to retire? If not, he should get traded to a contender and then re-sign with the Pirates in the offseason. Second part of your question there statement anyway makes sense, but I don't think he's going to stay in the league. I think he's going to be retiring, so he's not going to get traded anyway by that Pirates team. He's staying in Pittsburgh. He's a legacy guy there, about the culture, that kind of thing. They're looking for more likely at moving anything that's not nailed down in the way of relief pitching. Mitch Keller. They're also looking at moving Brian Reynolds and Cabrian Hayes. They are going to have a fire sale there in Pittsburgh. But let's go ahead and just show you the value. Actually, let me do it this way first. Show you what people have been offering for DeGrom first. Andrew is going to be a Pirate for the rest of his career. I hope so. That's the way it should be. You were asking about what DeGrom you could get in return for him. Yoshida. Franklin Arias. Trading away one of your best bullpen arms in Armstrong this year. Cash, DeGrom, in exchange for a bag of bolts. Magic beans. The Yankees, you get Marcus Stroman's wonderful contract. You trade the Yankees $30 million just so the Yankees can watch DeGrom pitch for them and the future of Josh Young. You're getting Spencer Jones out of it. I don't think they'd do this, and I don't think that this trade would ever happen. But hey, you at least get Spencer Jones. That one's at least not completely horrible. Hey, how about we trade Jacob DeGrom and bring back the horrible contract of Andres Jimenez, and maybe take on the future of Dennis Schneider just to have some hope. Because our postseason chances will be better without DeGrom, but with Andres Jimenez and Davis Schneider. I'm telling you, these trades were horrible when I looked at them the first time. Here's another one. DeGrom, Young, and Cash for Stroman and Jones. Again, at least you get Jones. How about we trade one of our best future bullpen arms in Garcia along with DeGrom, but we get Kasevich out of it. And $10 million to pay down the contract of Jimenez, which, by the way, we won't have a place to play him. You would do Yoshida and Blaze Jordan for DeGrom. You just want a pitcher in that deal. All I'm going to say is you're basically taking a Cy Young candidate who's taken the ball every start this year, who's seen as a negative asset by this site and by the community at large, and trading him and paying down the contract to watch him play elsewhere to get any level of return. Yoshida seen as a negative contract? Sure. Yoshida right now wouldn't have a place to play in the outfield. Probably takes over as DH right now. The nominal improvement he would bring at the DH spot over what Josh Smith currently brings versus giving up a Cy Young candidate this year. Now, of course, you can't put all your eggs in one basket for this year, but we're still talking about Jacob freaking deGrom. If he finishes the season the way he's done so far this year, his value in the offseason, if you wanted to trade him at that point, would be so much higher and a lot more palatable to the return that you might get. Competitive balance pick for Jacob deGrom? And that's with the Tigers taking the bulk of the negative in that deal? No. Obviously, the draft has already happened. Melendez, a shortstop hitting 200 right now in A-ball for Jacob deGrom. No, thank you. deGrom and us overpaying on the cash to send him to the Blue Jays, giving them an ace. And we get a marginally failed prospect in Relvis Martinez, who has nowhere to play, and 2 flyers. No, thank you. Kasevich, Lupervito, and Roden in exchange for deGrom. Now, this person's completely out of whack on the value here. No money exchanging hands either. But Kasevich would be a nice starting point in a deal. Lupervito's an okay utility player. And then you get Roden, a prospect for your future. Even in the offseason, I would consider this the starting point of Kasevich, but this is still nowhere close to the value of deGrom for me. Let's go ahead and look at the Red Sox prospects like you're talking about, Blaze Jordan, etc. Just to kind of wrap up our discussion on deGrom. All right. Blaze Jordan. Okay. Blaze is AAA. Prospect number 28, at least early in the year. 303. He's not hitting very well at AAA, though. 796. Strikeouts are 17. Walks are 9 in 37 games. So he doesn't strike out a whole lot, so he makes good contact. Slug is nice. But again, this is kind of in that same vein of Blaze Jordan versus the trade I made just a minute ago for Jonathan, what was his name? Jonathan Long from the Cubs. You think Yoshida will stay more healthy than deGrom? I'd bet on deGrom on that one. The impact and the injury risk of deGrom far outweighs what the benefits of having Yoshida and his injury risk would be. You'd want Sandlin as far as the pitching prospects. Sandlin is number 9 in their system, AA, throwing .368, not bad. 78 innings, 82 strikeouts, not exactly a big strikeout guy. Walks are a bit of an issue, not a huge one, but a small one. He's an okay AA pitcher. I think AAA might be his bugaboo because he's already 24, so he's already playing a little bit older than the players he's playing against. I wouldn't want Sandlin. Well, I'll put it this way. I get you don't like deGrom, period. I think you've made that abundantly clear. But I'm saying, moving off of a Cy Young caliber pitcher, a top 5 Cy Young candidate this year on the AL side, in exchange for the number 28 and 9 prospects from the Boston Red Sox and taking on the contract of Yoshida, doesn't exactly do anything for the Rangers, if they were to take it on. Can you find out what a Griffin Jax to the Rangers trade would look like? Yeah, we can do that one. We've done a lot of Duran trades to the Rangers over our time here, but we haven't really done a Jax one because he fits the strikeout fit for what the Rangers are looking for, but the save ability, the ability to close games, he doesn't really fit that direction. But Let's say Duran ends up going to a team like the Phillies. What would it take for the Rangers to bring in Griffin Jax? Again, the strikeout's really what you're looking for there. The swing and miss. So Jax's value as of today currently is 27.2, about the same as it was yesterday. So the Rangers, I think the trade again has to start with Rosario. I think Dreiling probably fits as the second piece. I think you're probably going to have to put in DeVio in this deal. You don't want to trade Duran. I wouldn't either. I mean, as a Rangers fan, I want him because he has. I believe there's a mentality to a closer that's different than any other pitcher, starter or reliever, and you just have to have that mindset. And of course, he's got the cool entrance and all that. Like, kind of tough to beat. He has probably one of the top 5 entrances for closers all time. But that would be your trade, Griffin Jax in exchange for Rosario, Dreiling, and DeVio. I think that's fairly accurate. I think the Rangers would be willing to do that. I think the Twins would be willing to do that. Cobra, did I hear about Osuna? Are you talking Marcel or are we talking Alejandro? It's a blessing to have him. No kidding. He's been fantastic. Houston has taken a 3-1 lead and ended up winning the game. Okay. So the Diamondbacks have to be sellers now, you'd think. Actually, let me close this page and then open scores in another. Because again, for some reason, it just doesn't want to load right anyway. I do it other than that. Twins 9-5 in front now of the Dodgers. Griffin Jax is on against Ohtani. We were just talking about Jax. Let's go ahead and take a look. Foul ball. Looks like Betts is on first base, 1 out. Marcel is going to the Padres, possibly. Close to signing, trading for him. He's got those 10 and 5 right, so he would have to approve a trade there. And I think there would be a spot for him in that lineup. He would get everyday playing time. That'd be a good fit. The question would be the money there for the Padres. Maybe the finance guys have finally been beaten back there in San Diego. Two and 2 on Ohtani by Griffin Jax. Looks like he got Outman to end it. Or to get the first out of the inning anyway. And then Betts, Ohtani, and then he's going to get Smith and then Freeman here. Heart of the order. This is why you go get Griffin Jax right now. You want to get the strikeout here of Ohtani, who's already been struck out twice in the game. This a double play ball? No, just a force out. Okay. Two outs. Smith coming up. Can I see who'd be harder to trade for, Ohtani or Judge? Yeah, I can do that one. Sounds like a plane going overhead. Strike 2. Looks like this could end the inning here. Probably the last best chance the Dodgers will have. I'd say Preller should go for Murphy and Osuna. Preller is crazy at trades sometimes. Absolutely. I love the way he operates too. He gets into really big situations really fast and then divests himself of it really fast as well when it doesn't work out to maintain that future value. You guys were wondering why I keep thinking about trading Wyatt Langford for that very same reason. Because if it works out, great, but if it doesn't, you're not going to trade him for nearly that same value of the offseason if he maintains his numbers that they're at right now. And if he hits superstardom, absolutely would be fantastic. I think that's what everybody would want as far as Rangers fans. But if he doesn't get there, it'd be yet another prospect who has incredible value on the trade block that they don't trade away and don't capitalize on their value, and then they end up squandering him in the long run. Jurickson Profar, Ezekiel Duran, Joey Gallo, Mike Olt, Cole Ragans, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. Came across a bunch of Mike Olt rookie cards the other day. That was pretty cool. Let me know in the chat if you guys remember who Mike Olt was. Spelled O-L-T. Free agent after the season? Yes, he is. To be fair, where has that mindset gotten the Padres? Well, they don't necessarily have the payroll of the Rangers. But it's been able to get them Manny Machado. It's been able to get them Fernando Tatis. It's been able to get them Xander Bogaerts, who obviously hasn't worked out yet. Huge negative asset, but seen as a... Oh, there's the strikeout. So that's what you're expecting from Jax. There you go. But I'd say the Padres have done a really nice job building out their rotation, although it is aging, but nobody necessarily of the value of DeGrom or the ability of DeGrom either. Got to identify those right pieces, and I'd say that the Rangers and Padres have built their teams very similarly on the free agent market. Luis Arraez is a free agent at the end of the season. He is. So will be Dylan Cease, Michael King. Heel Mike Olt, former Ranger third baseman. Yes. He was the number 2 prospect behind Jurickson Profar back in the day. They ended up trading him to the Cubs, I believe, was it the Dempster deal or the Garza deal? One of those deals. Either way, it didn't work out. He had vision issues at one point and then kind of bounced around for a minute and then played a little bit for the White Sox, I want to say, and then his career was basically over. Darvish. Love me some Yu Darvish. But at Darvish's best, he's not quite Jacob deGrom. And Darvish, when they got him there in San Diego, was never seen as a DeGrom-like pitcher. Not at the best top pitcher in the game when they signed him. Or when they traded for him and took on his contract from the Cubs to save the Cubs money. And then they gave him a contract extension because they needed to keep the starters there. Remember, he was seen as a negative asset at the time with the Cubs that they offloaded his contract. But I do like Preller quite a bit. He was the assistant GM under John Daniels with the Rangers, and so I kind of followed his career ever since he went out to San Diego. His first big trade acquisition was going after Craig Kimbrell and Justin Upton and B.J. Upton and building that first super team. Didn't work out. They quickly peddled off a couple of pieces, recouped some value in a way for Craig Kimbrell from, I believe, the Boston Red Sox. Morahone, I think, was actually part of that deal. He is now probably one of the best, if not the best, reliever in the game, at least by the numbers so far. He just coughed up a couple of runs the other day though, so he might have lost his status as best reliever in the game so far this year. But he was part of that return years and years and years and years and years ago. All right, before we wrap up on the evening, let's just do one or two more trades and kind of round out the evening. Had a lot of fun discussing some deals with you. Let's do something a little bit different, though. We got robbed on that Cashner deal. All right. Let's do another fun one. We've seen a lot of Mitch Keller trade rumors, and the Pirates in absolute fire sale mode. They're looking for hitters right now. And for me, the Blue Jays, we get the dots connecting here with the Blue Jays interested in Mitch Keller. They're all in this year. The Blue Jays are trying to win this season. So this is a really good opportunity for the Pirates to strike here. So Keller goes to the Blue Jays. Blue Jays end up selling Kasevich and Yasevich to the Pirates. And how close are we on value? 28 to 33. And then I think you get maybe one more hitting prospect around that 5 to 8 range. Maybe a Relvis Martinez. No. I think you go Luperfido. His value actually went up a little. But no. Bonilla. And Polanco. That makes some sense. Two really strong prospects, couple of wild cards, 3 position players and 1 starter. Now I might want one more quantifiable third piece rather than 2 lottery tickets at the end. But I got 2 players, one of which I expect to be in the majors for sure starting next season. How close is Kasevich, though? I think he is pretty close. Blue Jays. Yasevich. Struggling so far in Double-A, but High A he was really good. Looks like he's still getting his feet wet there. Okay. Namala, Kasevich, there he is. Rookie ball. 883, struggling in A. I thought he was a higher prospect than that. Is it Yasevich I'm thinking of? 111 strikeouts. Namala. It's not Namala. Who was the hitting piece I was thinking of? Never mind, you got Luis Castillo in the trade? Yeah. Let's see here. If you did Namala instead. Come on, I hit number 1 already. There we go. Finally did it. So Namala's at 25. If you take out Kasevich, you take out the 2 lottery tickets, you get the 1 and 2 prospects from the Blue Jays for the controllable asset in Mitch Keller. What is Dennis Santana's value? Not that I think they should combine them, but he's at 5. Who else do they have that's on an expiring deal that you could toss into this deal to kind of finish it off? Ferguson, Heaney. You don't need another starter. Meza they've been familiar with, obviously. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa has been connected to the Giants as well. Almost missed that one. You could go Pham for an outfielder. But that feels like a separate deal on its own. falter. Say you throw in a Caleb Ferguson just to kind of round it out. What are Ferguson's numbers this year? Pirates. Ferguson. That was very yellow. 392, 41 innings, 43 games, 33 strikeouts, 8 ERA recently. How about no? So, what if they just did a straight up deal? It is an overpay. But that's not a bad deal. And that might be the deal that beats other clubs' offers. I do like Aurelvi Martinez, but he doesn't have a spot on the roster. He'd basically be another version of Cody Freeman, another version of Ezekiel Duran, Justin Foscue. Unless you're playing him a lot more regularly, he's going to end up in the same way we view Ezekiel Duran right now. He doesn't have a spot. I love Justin Foscue. He should have been brought up 2 years ago. Rangers, another prospect they had really high value on that they squandered. Aurelvi Martinez to the Astros, though, that'd make a little bit more sense. They're looking for a second baseman, preferably left-handed hitting. But I think Bryce Matthews probably has that spot on lock over Martinez anyway. And then you're probably moving Martinez out to third right now for the Paredes injury. Which, by the way, good job on Houston for going on this little win streak without Paredes in the lineup. Good job weathering the storm. As we all thought they would on Sunday when it happened. Yet another injury, and yet they're still going to keep right on chugging. Nobody seems to be willing to unseat them or has the ability to unseat them. All right. One last deal. Let's do an easy, kind of a fun one. You were asking about Judge and Ohtani's value, just for kicks and giggles. Let's see here. Ohtani 324 surplus. Judge 128. So obviously Ohtani the better of the two. 328 salary, 255 salary, 6 years, 8 years. So unless you view 2 years more and $100 million more, worth 200 surplus more, I'd say Ohtani probably the better value again. Starting pitcher and DH brings a lot to the table. All right, but let's do a fun trade here. Let me clear this out. The last fun trade we'll do. Kind of thinking about Mason Miller from the A's, but we just did one last night. Check out our live from last night if you want to see that one. Something we haven't done yet. With only, 8 days now to the deadline, since we're almost past midnight now. We haven't done too many for the Mariners. They need offense. They have prospects out the wazoo. What if they got creative for an offensive piece? So, Anthony, you're going to like this one. If the rumors are true and Stowers is actually on the market, he takes over in right field for the Mariners today. Mariners end up trading Lazaro to the Marlins as the first piece in this deal. Now, it's a fairly equal trade right now, but obviously you're going to have to pay more of a premium to get this return. So, where do you go? Bautista, Pete. I think you go Pete first. And then you go... Williamson's glove is really good. His bat is not. DeWalt Joseph. If I'm the Marlins, would I trade Kyle Stowers, 3 years left on his deal after this year, For Montez, who probably doesn't start this upcoming season for the Marlins, but might get there around the trade deadline next year. Pete, who's at least 3 years away. And Joseph, who's probably 4 years away. I wouldn't do it. Would the Marlins do it? That's a bigger question. If they were going to trade Semien, they should have traded Foscue a long time ago. All I'm saying. You mean if they knew they were going to sign Semien? That's what I'm talking about. They should have traded these guys once they made those additions. At the trade deadline when they brought in Semien, there was an opportunity to trade some of those guys for long-term assets, for other pieces, or even just do a minor league player trade for minor league player trade. Hey, I have a shortstop. It's blocked at the major league level, but I need an outfield prospect. Hey, you have an outfield prospect that's blocked at the major league level, but you need a second base prospect. Make that type of a deal. And the Rangers just never really capitalized on even those types of trades either. Those trades are rare at the top levels of the minors. Minor leaguers down lower usually are a little bit more subjected to that kind of a thing, especially guys that are needed for roster construction purposes. For instance, if your entire Double-A team is a lot of shortstops, but you need a catcher or two, you might trade one of those shortstops to be able to make your lineup work a little bit better. We see a lot of those types of trades a lot in the minor leagues, but this trade here that I'm talking about for the Marlins, I wouldn't do it, but I wouldn't rule out the Marlins considering it. It's a moderate overpay. I'm not going to post it because, again, I wouldn't do it. All right. Appreciate you guys joining us. Thank you guys for having so much fun with me in the chat. We are a little over 2 hours and 15 minutes with you guys. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Follow us over on X at UpsideSN and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. We'll be live with you guys again tomorrow afternoon for our afternoon live on a Wednesday. And then in our evening live around 9 o'clock, we'll do our updated power rankings. We're probably going to go live after the conclusion of the Rangers game. So I try to watch those and try to catch up on a bunch of games as well around the league. In fact, I actually fired up my old TV and with our MLB.TV package and had 4 games on and the Rangers on. It was flipping between all the different games this evening. I told you guys, baseball was great tonight. And hopefully you guys got to enjoy some of those games before you joined us on the air. But thank you guys for making this so much fun. And we'll keep you guys updated on anything and everything that's happening around the MLB trade deadline. So make sure you got those alerts turned on. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow evening. Have a great one. We'll see you then.